This is a walkthrough of the project Graduate Affairs chatbot made by Rohan, Akshay, and Yogeshwar. So let's see how the bot functions. Let us give it a question like what is the deadline for the transcripts, and the bot gives the response, and the response is some text and a URL. So let's see what the URL takes us to. So this is the URL, and this has the questions related to transcript and everything. And then let's ask one more question. So how can a student obtain his uni, which is the unique identification card of the university? And the bot answers how to activate the uni. Let's see the URL, and here you can see the email and uni which are related to each other. So hence this is the helpful URL for the current uni. And let's try one more question just to see how the bot performs. So let me think of, yeah. So some students might be coming late to the orientation, so they want to know if coming to the orientation of their department is mandatory or not. And the bot gives an answer which says that it is mandatory, and it also gives a URL which gives the schedule of the orientation. Yeah, so in order to understand how the bot functions, we need to understand the concept of intent and entities. So intent is the main goal or the topic of the statement, and entity is the important parameters in the statement that lead to the goal. So let's understand by some examples, like if the student gives the question. So the first question, the intent is required because mandatory is what the student asked for, and the department and the orientation are the entities. They can also be combined together to form an entity. Similarly, when a student wants to obtain his uni, so in this question, the intent is an issue because he's facing an issue to obtain his uni, and the entity is uni, which is the unique identification of the university. Now let's see for the question, what is the deadline for transcripts? Deadline is the intent and transcript is the entity. So the question is sent to the Solar, Apache Solar, and the intent and entities are sent to the Watson conversation module. So now let's see what happens in Solar. So Solar basically maintains a posting list which holds the mapping of words or phrases and the corresponding places at which they occur. For example, this chunk of text occurs at this URL, and there can be multiple chunks of text occurring at various URLs. So when we give the question, what are the instructions for an incoming grad student, it basically scans all the text chunks, and this scanning is very quick because Solar is based on leucine indexing, so it's very quick. And then after the matching, a URL is returned which is like the most relevant to the question being asked, or so to say, the text of the question. So in the Watson Conversation API, we can store intents and entities for a given set of questions. For example, the following set of questions have the intent problem. There's another intent issue where these are real questions that were asked in the past. And here you can see required is another intent. We also have entities over here. So uni is an entity which has the synonyms card and ID, and we have another entity, housing, which can be off campus or on campus. So based on these intents and entities, Watson API gives the related intent and entity for any question you give to it. So basically, first we train it using the given questions, and then when a new question comes, it maps it takes the intent and entity of that question, compares it with our intents and entities. When there's a match, it returns the most relevant question within that intent and entity. So this is how the response is being built, and later the URL returned by Solar is also attached to the response to make the final response, which looks like this.